Hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Rosado, and this is the DIVA Checkpoint. This is your go to stop for bold insights, big vision, and real action from leaders across Circle K International. Each episode, my guests and I unpack what's happening, what's next, and how we're showing up to lead, with plenty of fun and maybe a little drama along the way. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the DIVA Checkpoint with me, Tyler Rosado. I am so glad to have you tuning back in again for another week of amazing conversations, insights, and all things CKI. This week, we have Governor Taylor Henderson of Georgia CKI, and I am so excited to share this conversation with you because Taylor is not only a great colleague in my governor class, but she's also a dear friend who I've met through this organization and who I'm in frequent contact with. So it was super cool to have this opportunity to share some insights and also share some laughs as we talk about a plethora of different topics. A little more on Taylor. Taylor Henderson is the current district governor of the Georgia District of CKI. Her home club is Emory University CKI, where she previously served as an interim PR coordinator during both her first and second year. A proud first-generation member of the Quantis family, Taylor was introduced to CKI in college, but has always had a passion for service and business. She's rising third year studying computer science and environmental science with aspirations of becoming a software developer. Outside of CKI, Taylor is the founder and president of Tangled, Emory's natural hair club. She's on the social justice education team for Volunteer Emory. She's also a peer mentor for the Office of Student Involvement, Leadership, and Transitions. And this past summer, she spent most of her time as a pre-college resident advisor. She's passionate about creating inclusive spaces, empowering Black students like herself, and bridging technology with social impact. As I've already said, Taylor is a great friend of mine, and it was so fun getting to engage in this conversation with her, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's get right into it. Hello, Taylor. How are you today?
I'm fabulous, Tyler. Thank you for having me today on the DIVA Checkpoint.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Um, we have a long history. It's not too long, but I guess, but it feels like a long history because me and you clicked, I guess, at Gatsby. Well, we met before we got to
Birthday.
Gatsby.
Good. Oh, on the plane.
Yes, we
The same
met.
plane together.
Yes, we met in Atlanta, technically, I guess, because that was where the connecting flight was, or for me, it was my connecting flight, and we just kind of hit it off, and we were there kind of early to Gatsby, I want to say.
The first people before the Dylans came on.
Yes, and so I think between that and just like being able to meet new people as they came, we really got to just like hang out and vibe. And also having our districts so close to each other, I feel like we have
Yeah.
similar just like things going on. Of course, my district administrator was once Georgia CKI governor, so there's history there. So,
Yeah.
and we were in the same district last year. As of the time of recording this, we don't know what the districts will look like, for the new year, but we spent some time together on meetings too. So we've really gotten a chance to get to know each other. So it's been really cool. So I'm excited that you're on to talk about all things CKI.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm really, really hoping and praying that we end up in the same district again because it was really a breath of fresh air seeing a familiar face, familiar leadership style, and just catching up.
So, I want to talk about all things CKI since we have so much going on in our respective districts. And I really want to hear about some of the initiatives that you're bringing into the fold because I know you are really optimistic for this future of Georgia CKI. So I want to say you have a new service hour competition that you're looking to launch. That by the time this comes out, will probably be launching or in the process of launch. So, you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, so one of the biggest things that I saw within my district was my clubs are doing really, really good on their own, but there wasn't a lot of connection between the clubs or knowing what schools nearby had a CKI club. And most of the clubs and people within them I didn't see until I got to our own district convention. They didn't really post much. Sometimes they would post the service they were doing, but not much of like the people doing the work. And then I was just like, I mean, like, how can we get people to like bring visibility to each other? I was like, what if we had a service competition with hours and make it where we do like a little update every week of how many hours each club has or something along those lines. And what really made me think that this could really work was Anya, our past governor, the year before me, we were invited to our Georgia Key Club convention, and everything, and I mean everything was a competition for them. And I know, like for high schoolers, there's a different drive when it comes to service and a different drive for joining the Kiwanis family, of course, but they were able to have a lot of pride for not only their club, but for being a part of the Georgia district as a whole and just off that competition element on its own. So I really want that to be a driving force for the upcoming year. I know people have been really wanting me to establish a governor's project for this year. I've still been on the fence on what niche I really want to get into because, I joined CKI to not be put in a box of my service, but I know this is something I really want to put a lot of my energy and time into before establishing that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think competition is a really important component. I know we have some competitions. One competition we added in the Carolinas last year was almost like a membership drive competition for the winter kind of like time period, like but in between January and our decon in like February and around there. Just as a way to like push membership at a time when people aren't really thinking about membership, at least in CKI.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got like a whole club's worth of new members out of it from across the different there are clubs in our district. So it's like if you just add that little spin on it, it kind of boosts all the efforts that like, we're gonna do anyway, right? We're gonna talk about recruiting people. We're gonna try to get extra members even, right before decon. But to have that extra aspect, it really kind of lit a fire under some folks to like get excited about it. So it is really cool. And I know your district has done this, my district has done this, and I've tied a competition in mine for starting a new like LinkedIn page for our districts.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I'm trying to have a competition of like if y'all can get to X amount of followers on our LinkedIn page, then we'll have some special event for decon, like things like that. And also not only are we doing club LinkedIn stuff, but you, I would say, are also a fierce LinkedIn warrior like myself.
Yes.
So
I
I'd love
love
for you to talk.
LinkedIn.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit of just about how you got into doing LinkedIn because that's what I think the biggest thing. So many people see someone like myself or yourself that have a presence there, and they always say something along the lines of, "Oh, that's really cool, and I really should do that too." But then they don't materialize that. So how did you kind of get into doing LinkedIn stuff?
So it randomly just spurred on me like one random day, like last year, in the beginning of my sophomore year in college. And I was like, I have a LinkedIn page. Like I created one years ago and never used it. And then I went on there and I found a friend of mine, whose name is blanking on me right now. But I saw that he had over 500 connections on LinkedIn. Like his page was decked out. He had multiple posts. He had the professional photo, and a little bit of like the competitive aspects I talked about earlier. Like it got into me a little bit. I was like, if he got 500 plus, I know with people that I know, and how I like to really groom myself professionally. Because I think in CKI we talk a lot about branding, and creating branding. Like even with the other church trying to create LinkedIn pages as well. Because while we are a service organization, we are about grooming, well, creating leaders and building ourselves in like the business, I guess, realm. So for me, with the background of computer science and environmental science, I was like, in these times, it is very important that I create my brand and have something out there for myself. Because it was also around the same time that I was applying for internships and like summer jobs. And a lot of times they would ask if I had a LinkedIn or some form of website or portfolio. And I was like, what if I just started like for making a portfolio, making a LinkedIn, getting it updated. I got my photo taken, headshots with my entire club. That I have a natural hair club on campus, on the Emory's campus called Tangle. And I was like, I feel like we need to have headshots. That was my way of making myself get a professional headshot. And we just got a campus photographer to do it for like $50 for the entire group. And after that, it's just having that photo on top of that made me even more not competitive, but it really lit a bigger fire under me to keep going with my LinkedIn and keeping things updated and keep connecting with people. And I even went so far as to, during our Key Club convention, doing a workshop with Anya again, about college life, and then having an extension on, creating a LinkedIn and the importance of having LinkedIn, especially now when it's getting harder to get, jobs and internships and really need to stand out. So making sure we have a space that we kind of play up being an extrovert or play up our skills. Because we are all great people, but we need to showcase that, especially now when everyone is getting into academia and trying to transition to professional life. LinkedIn is becoming essential with time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is such a key point, and I'm glad you talked about your other organization, Tangled, that we'll definitely talk about more later in the episode. But I think it's cool too because, CKI isn't normally the only thing that a student will be involved with on campus. Even if it's the maybe biggest part of it, it might not be the only part, usually never is. And so it's important to have a space that is all about your personal brand identity, which a personal brand identity exists too. And showcasing that and making those connections because then that's also how you recruit members for, CKI or
Yeah.
pull people from CKI into other endeavors, which is just another benefit of being part of an organization. And so I'm definitely planning to put together some like LinkedIn workshop stuff for some of my conventions in the Carolinas this year. I'm hoping that after, I guess, workshopping my workshop, I'll maybe take it to Icon too. Because that's something that people always ask about. It's like how to get into it.
Yeah.
And it really does have a bunch of benefits and opportunities. I guess, are there any stories that really stick out to you about maybe some connections you've made through your LinkedIn account?
Yeah, so the biggest, like, I won't say like connections. Well, there's two things. I'm gonna start with the more funny connection and then go into like something that's a bit more serious. First one, my high school was connected to a college, like in the name, we're connected to a college, it's called Middle College High School at Christian Brothers University. And I had that inside of my LinkedIn to begin with. And I got so many different connections from random people who messaged me thinking I was some form of alumni from Christian Brothers University, and trying to connect on that basis. And like they were very disappointed when they found out I was indeed not going to Christian Brothers University. But a connection is a connection, so you know. And then another connection I made was on the topic of computer science, an Emory alumni who I had gotten in contact with through my financial aid advisor my freshman year. I was really struggling to begin with inside this major simply because there's not many people who look like me in the Black household. It's not really built around working by yourself and like kind of getting it out the mud by yourself and learning. Just it's different than just learning how to study. With a field like this, you really have to become truly independent and truly self-sufficient. And so my financial aid advisor was trying to build a website for her own personal business she had outside of her main job, and she just gave me a connection of the young man that she was working with, and I've been, whenever I have homework problems, I make sure I shoot him a message like, "Hey, I have this prompt that I'm a little stuck on," and I still keep in contact with him all the time, and I make connections like those with computer science with other people on my campus who are currently here too, and like that's the main way that I stay connected with people on LinkedIn is around what I'm actively doing in my day-to-day life. It's like it's very important to people watching to keep your LinkedIn updated with things that are accurate about you. Make sure you have accurate dates. And if you don't have a photo, which you should have, is I don't personally add people who don't have photos because I don't know if they're like robots or things like that. But even if it's just a graduation photo, A photo to know who you are is very, very important. Even if it's not your best photo, people aren't going on LinkedIn to scout for the next husband or wife or partner. People are going there for business endeavors. They don't care what you look like as long as it's, professionally, it's like presented. But, I digress.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I am a advocate of a phone headshot. Like as long as you're getting someone else to help you take the picture, it's not a selfie. Like you can take a pretty nice picture with a phone. Like that is more than enough for a LinkedIn profile as long as like you said, you're just presenting neat. And it's also you don't have to have the full, suit or whatever to get the
Yeah,
headshot.
no.
You really just need something cute about here and up and you're good. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Also, that's a thing I try to explain to people about just like having it updated to tell your story because so many times we talk about networking, especially in CKI, we talk about networking.
Yeah, a lot.
But it's a good compliment to have a place where if someone meets you and you may only meet for about 5 minutes and you're like, oh, I don't even know if I remember their name or if I remember things about them. But then this is gives you a place where like if you say, add me on LinkedIn or look me up on LinkedIn and then they end up making the connection, they can either go back later to learn more about you or their feed will tell them more about you.
Yeah.
I made a connection with someone who is an alumni of my school and also of a program that I do on campus called the Save Village Students Advocating for Youth. And so we had met for an extended amount of time doing this project that was kind of a collaboration between that organization and the business that he now runs, which is all about student leadership development. And so, like, he knew me and I knew him, and it was great. But then it was months, months, months later, after we both have each other on LinkedIn, where, I've been posting a lot about the fact that not only am I in the same organization that he was in at one time, but I'm also passionate about like student leadership and like educational leadership and things like that. And so then, one of the things in his business where, for a certain amount of money, teachers can go to this kind of like workshop to learn about starting student leadership elective classes in like high schools and stuff. And of course, at the place I'm at right now, I'm not a professional yet, so I don't have exactly like professional monies to spend to get those kind of
Yeah. Here
developments.
we go.
But because of the connections we have and the fact that, LinkedIn has helped me stay connected to him outside of this one kind of opportunity we did together, he reached out and was like, I feel like moved to give you this opportunity for free because I think it really relates to what you're trying to do. So it's like those are the kind of connections that can happen when you pour into a LinkedIn page. And I guess my biggest advice, not to go too much into the like nitty gritty of it all, is just to treat it like a diary where you keep track of just
Yeah.
all the things you're doing because you don't even realize it. I don't think I realized how much I was doing until I would stop myself to say, let's add it to the LinkedIn page. What all have I done? And there's tons and tons of stuff to add. So it's really cool that you love LinkedIn as much as me because I know that means that we will both be advocating for LinkedIn in our districts more. It's yeah, because it's a great place not only for the people in our organization to get to know each other, but also for alumni to meet the current generation of CKI folks. So it's really like a no-brainer, and I can't believe we didn't have one sooner, but I'm glad we have one now.
Honestly, because it's way more formal than having an Instagram page, and the Instagram is more so for our generation. So to really reach the older, not too old, because they probably don't have LinkedIn pages themselves, but to direct professional life, LinkedIn
Right.
is like the best way to make that connection. Quite
Right, exactly. And,
unironically.
speaking of making those connections and doing those things, it's important to be involved on campus in many ways, and I know you are. So I really want to circle back to this organization, Tangled, that you started, and I really want to know everything about it because I think it's such a cool organization that you started.
Okay, so my club that I started is called Tangled Emery. Back to the whole thing about connections. I the complex director of the hall that I lived in my freshman year. I would always bug her every single day because her office is inside the building. And came my sophomore year. Oh, I would always talk to her about how I wish we had a natural hair club all the time. And then it came my sophomore year of actually doing the paperwork and going through all of that. Um, I didn't realize I would need a faculty advisor. And so one day while just talking and ranting to her about it, she was like, well, I've always wanted to be a faculty advisor for a club. She was like, how about I do it? She's also a Black woman with natural hair. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Like, actually, yes, I have been egging my way into asking you this entire time. But neither here nor there. My hair has always been a really, really big part of my identity. Rather, I've been really trying to make it a point or not. As you may or may not know, in the Black community, having perms were a really, really big thing. Like having straight hair, really big thing until like about 5 years ago. But I've been natural since I was about like six-ish, which I was given like a bunch of scrutiny while young, just like Lord Drop being compared to looking like a young man or things of that sort for having hair short, and then not having a lot of representation and going through a lot of ugly hair phases because of not knowing how to do my own hair. It quickly became an extension of me constantly trying things and trying products, trying hairstyles, how to do my own hair. It really became a big part of who I was unintentionally. So when coming on a campus that is a PWI, um, I really, really wanted to find a space that just felt natural for me. Being from Memphis, Tennessee, I already came from a predominantly Black area, so joining a Black Student Alliance was cool, but like being on an executive board just didn't feel right for me because I don't know what makes a Black experience. That has always been my experience. I don't know what separates that from the average American or the average person. So for me, I was like, I want to create a space or be in a space that I can really speak to. In regards of where you are in the US, where you are in the world, as a Black person, your hair will always be a staple of you. It's a part of hygiene, taking care of your hair, and for us is way different. So I was like, I really, really, really wanted to create that space on my campus. It took about a semester long process just to get paperwork finalized and things like that. But I was able to start an e-board of 9 people. First year, we were able to have events before we were financially chartered and getting in refunding with the help of our Black Student Alliance, with the help of our Latinx student department, because they really believed in our mission because, natural hair extends farther than just the Black community. It goes into the Latin community as well. Um, and then going on this year, we have doubled in the e-board size. We just received a $1,000 grant from our, I guess, our unofficial mascot. His name is Dooley. He randomly sent an email to all the new clubs, and I'm just email like, "Oh, we've heard about your club, da da da." So I don't exactly know where the money came from, but we did an interview and we did things like that, but no identities were revealed to the people who were interviewing us and things like that. I actually did the interview at Gatsby during one of the times we had free time and like slick off into a room. But like I had just been so blessed with the support that I've been getting. And next year we plan on having a proper, fully fleshed out hair show in around October, as well as extending our initiative that we had last year of a book a look. Which is basically an event where we invite all the campus hairstylists to come out and fellowship and play board games, show their play music, vibe, show their artwork, their what you call their I guess just their work, their pricing to meet people. I don't necessarily have it as a space where people have to book or give their money and things like that, but it's very, very important, especially when you're at a white institution that you have to stay looking good. And being in Atlanta, it's not the best place to be navigating the hairstylist scene on your own. So being able to connect with your peers that do hair at a very reasonable price is we feel like it's very, very important. We have other things that we're planning on doing next year, but those are just the two main ones. And we're so excited. I'm just feel so grateful for all the support that we've been getting monetarily, and just like through word of mouth.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds so much like I think what I at least try to inject in the Carolinas of the idea that we predominantly are serving college students in CKI world, right? And there are so many components of life that you're going to navigate for the first time that can be scary. And navigating natural hair can be one of those things for people. So it's great that you've created a space on your campus that, can address some of those concerns or even just elevate the idea of it. Because for a lot of people, probably don't even recognize that as a pain point for some, or even just an area that needs more, learning to occur for folks. And so I think, any opportunity to, uplift folks and also teach folks about the experience of others is really super important. So I think that's an amazing opportunity. And, I think as well, in CKI world, you're interested in making sure that all communities within our organization are served and trying to increase membership from all communities. And so I think one area that you're interested in focusing on is predominantly Black communities. So I'd love to hear you talk more about that and how you're bringing that into Georgia CKI.
I'm so glad you asked that. So, just early this summer, or a little bit before then, I had a sit-down conversation with my DA after we had talked, with our entire board about like our goals as mandated by CK guy before the summer begins, and thinking about numbers, percentages, really getting to like the nitty-gritty of like what exactly we want to do this year. And Jenny put me to the side and was just like, okay. Now that we've gone and passed what everyone else wants, what do you want? What do you want to accomplish? And so I just thought to myself, well, have we ever had a CKI club in the Atlantic University Center? Which like in Atlanta, those are the big schools here outside of like Georgia Tech, GSU, Emory, UGA. The biggest schools are Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, and Spelman. That's where a lot of people, I guess, transplants from Atlanta, they come from these schools as well. And I just like a lot of my friends are from these schools, and this CKI has become a big extension of myself. I want to extend to them as well. And she was like, yes, actually, but they fizzled out with time, and it's just we haven't been no governor has been, I guess, interested in reaching back out to them and like recreating and reuniting that chapter. And I was like, honestly, like that was I was a little saddened to hear that because even for me, as you may or may not know, my journey to becoming a dues paid member of CKI was a bit of a journey because at my school, CKI is predominantly Asian, which is this is great, but there weren't many people who looked like me. So when they were trying to get me to like really put pen to paper and like, hey, you are a part of us now. You're with us all the time. You're always doing service with us. We want to take you to convention with us. We want to be with you more beyond this point, beyond just doing service. And I did research on my own, and then still seeing on like our international website, still not seeing people who look like me. I was just really, really concerned, but I bit the bullet and I went to convention, and the amount of Black students we do have in CKI was truly overwhelming. And to know that we have people, we have diversity within our organization, but these people these clubs just aren't highlighting the people who are doing the service. I think people just camera shy, and I don't think it's anything deeper than that. Um, but knowing that, I was just like, I know who will be posting their service. I know who would get down and the tea with it. And I was like, why not reach out to my friends at Agnes Scott, or not reach out to my friends at the AUC who I know have demographics that resemble what I look like. 'Cause I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about membership growth and service, because we're doing the service. Where the communities that we want to reach are getting reached, but when it's come time for us to fellowship together, we may not see those same exact people. And I think representation is a big part of that, and people just not seeing themselves. Even for myself, that was a bit of a concern. But knowing that we have those people has really been a moving driving force for me as governor, and what I want to achieve. Is just having people who look like the people they're serving, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, when we look at things like access, right? I think that's one of the biggest things in higher ed because for so long, a lot of communities were kept out of accessing higher ed or having to create their own spaces for higher ed. And so, for that reason, when people act confused about why there are certain gaps or, people that are left underserved, it's like, well, there's historical context there, right? And so I
Yeah.
think one of the best parts of our organization we've created is that, we have access to an older generation with connections, going back to networking, within our, Kiwanis side of things. And so to give all folks access to that kind of network, regardless of where they come from or what they look like, is super important. I know at least at the time of charter, I won't say that this is still true, but at the time of
Mhm.
chartering, which was last year, we chartered NCANT and NC
I've been
Central, and
following
so
them.
yes, and were our at the time I believe the only two HBCUs in kind of CKI world. And, I wasn't, of course, part of that initiative at the time. I wasn't at the district level, but hearing that those were the only two at the time, I was like, well, then that means there's more work to be done. There's always more work to be done. And so making sure that, everyone feels included and sees themselves in the space in some way, shape, or form is really important. So I'm glad you've identified that. I think I've definitely identified that. And I think as we get other governors to identify that in other districts, that only goes to benefit and strengthen our entire organization. So that really is awesome. And
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit to something that I really enjoy. I think you really enjoy, maybe even more. You recently attended Beyonce's concerts and are a big
Yes.
Beyonce fan. So I have to dedicate just like a good chunk of time to talking about all things Beyonce. So, oh, we have for our uh, auditory listeners,
Yes.
walk us through what we're looking at.
So right now we're looking at the Cowboy Carter and Renaissance vinyls. Inside they both have the two vinyl sets of both parts of the albums, a poster and a photo album with the lyrics for each song. Um, Yeah, let me just talk about Beyonce really quick. I've been a Beyonce fan my entire life. My mom has always been a Beyonce fan, not deeply, but when every Beyonce album dropped, she bought the CD, played it in the car, played it too much, and I became my own individual Beyonce fan when she dropped Lemonade.
Mm.
After, you know, when who will not be named. Um, cheated on my girl and really drug her through the mud. And even though I, at the time, had not experienced any type of heartbreak or any circumstances like that, her movie that she paired with the album really just took me through that with her. And it made me realize Beyonce is a legend. Beyonce is one of a kind. And I've always wanted to go to a Beyonce concert, but the cards never play out right, being from Memphis, Tennessee. No artists really come there to perform. They would always go to like to Nashville, and that's what she did with Renaissance. But just didn't have anyone to go all the way up to another city and to watch her with. But now that I'm in Atlanta for the summer, and she came for 4 nights. I was like, I have to snag a ticket for closing night. So, if you ever want to see any of my videos, just feel free to DM me. I have plenty of them. I just want to show you the poster that's in this one. The staff that I'm with actually this year for my birthday, right before midnight hit the next day came about, they came upstairs after I was doing check-in with the students and they just had all different gifts. And the last gift they brought me was this. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I drove half the staff to Lenox Mall over the weekend. And right before we left out, we went to Urban Outfitters and they had vinyls. And they had this, and I almost cried because I bought this one the other day at a vinyl shop and they didn't have Cowboy Carter. And I was like, I just bought Renaissance. I do not have the funds to pay for this again. And then while I was not looking, while I was walking out, they went and purchased it then and there and did not tell me. I don't know how they hid this from me or like any of that, but if she would let me get it out, hold on. Can I get the poster out again? Did I lose the poster? Well, if I lost this poster, cut this out. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me show you her. I think this is appropriate. I think it is. This side is, so I'm just gonna show this song. You see
Oh
that?
wow. For our auditory listeners, Beyonce is on a horse in on the moon, I think.
Yes.
Yes. She's on the moon on a horse. So yes, I unfortunately have not made it to a Beyonce show yet, which I think is like one of the great pains of my life. Because
It's
that
beautiful.
has just the stars have not aligned yet, but I know when they will, it'll be a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that's I think the greatest part for I think for people that don't understand the just the whole idea of Beyonce being such an impactful person in the culture, in the greater just societal impact, is her ability to perform. Especially with
Yes.
this Cowboy Carter tour, I think a lot of folks have really, who maybe didn't consider themselves Beyonce fans, really woke up to the fact that she is probably the greatest entertainer alive right now because
Yeah.
of her ability to create a performance, create a show that speaks to a visual aspect, an auditory aspect, and a greater cultural aspect. I think one of the greatest, like, probably compliments to Beyonce that I've heard out of the Cowboy Carter tour is that given everything going on and I think in our society right now and however you may be feeling about that, her performance made them proud to be an American based off of the idea of what American means to Beyonce.
Yeah.
And I think that meant so much because that is like such a deep, so much deeper than if you just try to dismiss Beyonce as like another pop star, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that is why that music speaks so much, like this specific tour speaks so much. And then me personally, my favorite Beyonce album is the Act One of Renaissance, and that's because not only was it an exploration of, all of these eras are exploring important aspects of Black music and the history behind that and the contributions of Black artists, but specifically Act One talking about like Black queer artists, which is,
Yeah.
really important to myself because I think so many times different aspects of people's identity have to be broken up for people to comprehend them. And I really wish people could understand the intersectionality of all that. And so
The
that
importance.
album really getting into, elements of house and disco and, meaning so much to that community meant so much to me to see other people kind of get that experience from such a mainstream album. Because similar music to Renaissance isn't as mainstream as that album. Like that's the most mainstream album with that sort of music in a long time, in my opinion. And so
Yeah. Since
that's why that album
RuPaul.
means so much to me. I think I'd have to know off of Cowboy Carter and off of Renaissance. I gotta know what are your like favorite songs.
Okay, so let me look at the list really quick. Because I'm gonna be honest, it changes all the time what my favorites are. Renaissance, to start off with, it was what's that song called? Oh, Alien Superstar. And then it
Mm.
moved to Heated because like at the very, very end where she's just like going off, like the tip, tip, tip on hot with applause, tip, tip. Like the energy is just everything. But now, I'm at my Summer Renaissance, the last song. Just because like my that era, because like it's truly like an auditorial experience. Like all our songs truthfully are, but like I heard someone make a an analysis because she's talked about how Cowboy Quarter was supposed to be first and then go into Renaissance. And someone's like, I don't know if you hear us doing outside, but anyways, of how Renaissance is actually talking about what a true American is, and talking about um, the true Americans are the queer community, the true Americans are Black people, the true Americans are Indigenous people, the true Americans are Latinx people. Like we have been here before. Some people have been here, and if especially with everything that's going on right now, I think it's really, really important that we are taking back what it means to be an American because we have power in numbers and her being seeing her live, seeing the people who showed up, the outfits people bring out. I know I'm taking this a little deeper than the question about the songs, But it made me realize these are these are the Atlanteans, these are the Georgia people, these are the Southern girlies, these are who are going out to vote. These are the people who are going and getting an education. These are people who have farms. These are people who are nurses. These are people who are doctors. These are people who are teachers, educators. Like this is what America is about. And I loved the playful aspect of Renaissance and how, intersectionality, Renaissance, you just said beautiful. And for Cowboy Carter, it started off with American Requiem because I really feel like it really, really sets the tone of the album. Because when people think it's something about being, mm, not saying being patriotic, but being like propaganda, but she literally talks about how America was built on built on the backs of slavery, of stolen land, and it really sets the tone for the rest of the album to be able to talk freely about being proud to be American, but just letting it be known the forefront that this is what America was made of. This was what America was made, like the foundation America was made on. This is what we are turning it into. And so I think that's really important. And so right now, though, is Flamenco. It's a very short song, but it just sounds like a goodbye song to me. And it's very sad. I've cried to it like twice since the concert. But after seeing it live, when she performed it after doing Protector with Rumi and Blue, a song about settling down, a song about relaxing and taking your time. It gave a new meaning for me because we are college students. There's no putting our foot on the brakes anytime soon. But for someone like Beyonce to be showing her age and being transparent about aging in an album like this after doing something about like Renaissance and about having fun and being lively, it's like, dang man, I can't do nothing but love the song. But neither here nor there, I digress. I'm done yapping about Beyonce now.
Well, and I think, yeah, we have to come back to the idea of like what it means to be American. And I think at the end of the day, no matter what Beyonce feels about being American, what we feel, what people who like Beyonce or don't like Beyonce feel about being American, I think at the end of the day, the intersection of all of it is the agreement that compared to some other identities that are ascribed to you, you have the power to say what being American means to you
Yes.
and what it means for everyone. Like for me, CKI is a big part of what it means to be American because I believe in serving people who you may not even see or may not even know, but it's the spirit of who we are as people
Yeah.
to give to folks and give back. And I mean, I think about obviously my American identity intersects with my Native American identity, where I think back to historically generations of people that were here that didn't receive service, didn't receive,
Yeah.
the desire to support someone in need. They saw an opportunity to be exploited and manipulated. And while I can't go back and make changes to that, and I don't expect anyone can, I also recognize that with this organization, we have the opportunity to serve people. And so that's why I think, this album to Beyonce is what CKI is to me, is an opportunity to express myself as an American and what I believe Americans should be. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
My last question for you, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but my
You're
last
good. You're
question for
good.
you is tell me the biggest diva moment that you have witnessed being a part of CKI and our organization. So just something that really stood out to you as a big and bold moment since you've joined CKI.
Big and bold moment. Ha ha ha. I have one, but you'll have to cut it out. Um, well, you can say it, but I just think it was bold for them, not necessarily like bold, period, because it was behind closed doors. It was after we were done. I guess this could tie into what we were talking about just now. After we were done, talking about amendments and stuff on a governor's like level and talking to professional staff, a DA came up to me and told me that I reminded him of Jasmine Crockett. And I found it so hilarious because like, why is that? Why do I remind you of Jasmine Crockett? I wasn't the main one talking, but why, yes, of course. I took it as a compliment overall because Jasmine Crockett's a very fierce young lady who is about her business, about, policy and and doing right people and fairness. And I think she really represents what being an American is about. When you love an organization so much, critiquing it is the biggest way you can show that you love it or that you care about it. Other than that, a diva moment was when we got our official Gatsby t-shirts, and like it had the what you called the slogan for our international convention, but nowhere on the shirt did it say CKI. And so for me, I feel like that was the biggest diva moment because they were just so passionate about the international convention and so focused that they completely forgot to include CKI or Kiwanis on the shirt. And I think that was very delicious of them because they still gave it to us without realizing that they forgot to put CKI on there. But I still wear the shirt, so it's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a big diva moment for a lot of us because I think we were all like, so we were all very focused on branding, and this does not
Yes.
tell me anything about what organization it is that we're going to this convention for. So that
Yeah.
is a really funny diva moment. Um, and
It's for
like,
you.
yeah, so no, I feel the same way. I think we all shared it. That was a group diva moment happening. That was a divas moment happening in real time at
I didn't
Gatsby.
even notice it.
Yes. Oh
I
my
didn't even
gosh.
notice it.
But thank you so much, Taylor. I'm so glad you could be on because I think you're one of the people that when I had this idea for this podcast in mind, I was like, this is someone who's gonna come and have a great episode. Just because you like to get into some good talking conversations. And so I knew that we were gonna have a great time, and I think we did. So
Yes,
maybe,
I
you
did.
know, season two, have another episode. Who knows?
Oh,
Who's to
yes.
say? But thank you so much again for being on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Thanks for tuning in to the Diva Checkpoint podcast with me, Tyler Rosado. For more episodes, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you've got something to say, we want you to be a guest on our show. Head over to bit.ly/CKI podcast for more information. Until next time, keep leading loud, CKI.